So what we're looking at here is the nervous system and hormones for this topic. Paper. Some of these we've done before, but no harm in going over them. So a nerve, they call it a neuron, and the three that we're interested in is the sensory neuron, the relay neuron, and the motor neuron. So what it is, these two, we have to know what they look like. So what happens is, you've got a pin here, your fingers here, when you prick yourself you end up with a pain. There's receptor cells here, they pass a signal on to the relay neuron. This here is the cell body. So remember what we said, the impulse is traveling towards the cell body here. That is called a dendron. As the signal passes that and going away from the cell body is called an axon. So all these words are useful. So when it gets there, right, this is your spine. This is your spinal cord, the central nervous system. The relay neuron, let's do it different color. So the relay neuron is here. It transfers, it relays the impulse from the motor neuron to the next one along. So the relay neuron passes it on to the motor neuron, and then that passes it on. Here you've got the muscle, or the, let's use the word effector. So this here is the, oh my god, I've done this the wrong way around, can't believe this. That's the sensory neuron. That senses it, sensory neuron, and passes the first impulse to the relay. This passes it on to the motor, and the motor is linked to the effector. Right. And a hormone is a chemical messenger. Is a chemical messenger or molecule that is produced by the endocrine glands. These basically produce chemicals and put them into the bloodstream, and travels in the bloodstream to the, it travels all over the body, but and has an effect on the target organ or cells, organ or target cells. Okay, this produces electrical impulses or electrical signals, impulses. This is via a chemical. Right, let's start. Where is ADH produced? It's produced in the pituitary gland at the base of the brain. ADH. What does ADH mean? Anti diuretic hormone. Uresis is flow of urine. Anti-uresis, it means it's gonna stop. It's gonna stop the urine. So that means there's gonna be less water in your urine. So what happens is the ADH is released by the pituitary gland, and what happens? And travels in the blood to the right collecting duct. This is the important bit. Collecting duct, and put where it is as well, in the kidneys. Kidneys. That's the first thing. What does it do? It makes the collecting and makes it more permeable. That means it allows more water, more permeable, so more water is absorbed back into the blood, making the blood, let's be clear, blood less concentrated and the urine more concentrated, or less volume, concentrated. Right. Right. Describe in two ways which nervous communication differs from hormonal. Right. Nervous. Okay, let's use right. Nervous is via electrical impulses, and hormonal is via chemicals. Nervous is via neurons to target specific areas. Hormonal is via chemicals. Hormonal is via chemicals and travels via bloodstream. Right. You could have also put here, let's just write this down. You could have also put that nervous is quick and short-lived. Hormonal is slower and longer lasting. Um, right, okay. Right, another characteristic shown by animals is the ability to respond to their surroundings. For example, a person may withdraw their hand from a hot object. So this is the reflex arc that we need to look at. Right, okay, so it's a 5 marker, and if you look at the mark scheme, they want you to go all the way, I think I described this earlier, all the way from the receptor cells detect it'll be pressure and pain. It will be pressure and pain. Detect the pin and send a message to the sensory neuron. Right. This sensory neuron sends an impulse to the relay neuron. The relay neuron is in the central nervous system and sends a message to the motor neuron via the synapse. And synapse is the gap between, so that's your first neuron, that's your second neuron, there's a gap here, so the impulse comes here, neurotransmitters, which are chemicals, diffuse across this gap. When they get there, they start another impulse, so sends a message to the neuron via the synapse, where neurotransmitters diffuse across the synapse. The motor neuron sends an impulse to the effector, in this case muscles, which contracts, pulling the hand away. The hand away. Yeah, that'll do it. That'll be the full thing. So let's just go over this. The receptor cells detect a signal, they send a message to the sensory neuron. This then sends an impulse to the relay neuron. The relay neuron is in the central nervous system and sends a message to the motor neuron. And it has to overcome these gaps as it goes from sensory to relay to motor. And it does that. So the gap is called the synapse. So this gap is the synapse. So the neurotransmitters diffuse across the synapse and then start another signal. So then the motor neuron sends an impulse to the effector, and in this case the effector is the muscle. The muscle contracts, pulling the hand away and saving it from further damage. Right, describe the stages. Yep, we've got to do this. I think I've already done this in one of the videos, but let's do it again. We need to genetically modify bacterium to grow hormone. Right. So you obtain the donor DNA and cut out the human growth hormone using restriction enzyme. So you've got your human DNA. We want to cut out this bit. So we use restriction enzyme to cut that out. Using a plasmid from bacteria and the same restriction enzyme using a plasmid and the same restriction enzyme, you cut out a section of the plasmid. So you've got your plasmid, something like this. Using the restriction enzyme, you cut out a section like that, and then this bit that you've cut out, we're gonna glue it into there. So using the plasmid and the same restriction enzyme, cut out a section of the plasmid and right, let's start with this. Then using DNA ligase, glue the donor human growth hormone to form a recombinant plasmid. So this plasmid now that you've glued that gene onto is called a recombinant plasmid because you've recombined everything. Combinant. Then what happens? Using the DNA ligase, glue the donor to form a recombinant plasmid. Right. This this plasmid, which is the vector, which is the carrier, is incubated is incubated with bacteria, and some bacteria, some will take it up. The bacteria are then bred. The bacteria are bred and the human growth hormone is harvested. Okay, those are the stages. You get a donor DNA, cut out the human growth hormone using restriction enzyme. Using the same restriction enzyme, you take a plasmid and you cut out a section. Then using DNA ligase enzyme, you glue the donor human growth hormone to form a recombinant plasmid, a full one. Then the plasmid, the recombinant plasmid, which is acting as a vector, is incubated with bacteria. Some of the bacteria will absorb it, and then you can breed that bacteria which contains a human growth hormone, and then you can harvest the human growth hormone afterwards. Okay. What is a hormone? It is a chemical messenger excreted or secreted by an endocrine gland and travels in the bloodstream. Right, let's have a look. Right, what we can do is we can do this on the next video about selective breeding.